all the materials previously submitted, they are in the board packets.
Yes.
In the handouts.
And we do have one handout. One of the things that I'm going to try to read briefly from, Shelby Michaels is an LPC supervisor, and she has prepared a statement, and that's going to be part of it. And we have those, and Cindy will hand those out.
Tell you what, let me have those.
Okay. Some of them that are, here, make sure the black and white ones. Some of them ended up back to back. So
I'm not going to read her letter verbatim since you have it. I'm just going
There's
to
2
pick
pages for each one, so each person gets 2.
respectful of the
Some of
time.
them are back to back.
These are, I think you have enough. If you don't, I have some that are back to back.
And while they're talking, because I wasn't aware of what was going on when I prepared this, I just have some questions. I'm going to take that individual's name out. Would that help in the presentation? Because I understood that you said you can control what is made in presentation. So I just want to make sure that we're adhering to the integrity of the process. So I'm removing that person's name, but it is the name that is spoken here. Okay. So my name is Stephanie, and I'm speaking on behalf of a group of parents and grandparents. There are over 30 of us who are all former clients of said psychologist, and every single one of us has evidence of her professional misconduct and code violations. 12 or more of us submitted complaints about the psychologist and staff, and more complaints are in progress. This number of people being harmed by a single psychologist is alarming and speaks volumes. Over 300 people across the state of Texas signed our petition, in which we asked you, the board, to investigate said psychologist, as well as strengthen and enforce rules about forensic evaluations in child custody matters. We think y'all have seen that. We sent it to staff a couple of months ago. By far the worst part of this ordeal is that many of us were wrongfully separated from our children due to false findings and recommendations, and even over the opposition of multiple professionals involved in the case. We lost and continue to lose precious time with our children that we can never get back. We don't want this happening to any other families. This is why we are here before you today. It is not easy for any of us. Many of us, like has been mentioned, suffer from PTSD from the trauma. And we simply would not be doing all of this if it was not warranted, and if we had not been advised by countless professionals that there are serious problems with these evaluations. We would appreciate your help to ensure the fairness and dignity of the disciplinary process, as it is our understanding that it was our understanding that board members of a public agency should be reachable by the public. We apologize if we misunderstood that, overstepped, or impaired in any way. We believe maybe a private group meeting, and I think some of us have mentioned a task force as well, might be a good starting place for this conversation. We want to resolve this matter with the board because we see that our goals are aligned to protect the public from malpractice and to ensure the integrity of forensic evaluations, which I've heard from the forensic evaluators in the audience as well. The psychologist told you at the last February meeting, and some folks have alluded to it, that clients all have plenty of options to get out of family court cases, and to us that's misleading and misinformed. When you are being sued, you can't stop somebody from suing you. You can't stop somebody from making false allegations. And these family court cases, they are complicated. And they begin to take on a life of their own. A parent cannot simply walk away from a court-ordered service. They can't opt out. They can't not show up to court cases. If they do, we are told that we will lose our children. And so we're not sure where all these options are. We have not been able to walk away. And especially when you're the target of litigation. At the board's meeting, February meeting, the psychologist told you that the complaints against her were unwarranted and harassing. I quote, "Frivolous, expensive, and time-consuming board complaints with the sole intent to threaten our livelihood. Nothing could be further from the truth. We're concerned that her statements could have also prejudiced the board and staff while she's under investigation. As it happens, our complaints were meticulously reviewed, well documented, and validated by other experts, including Dr. Jonathan Gould, who is a nationally recognized forensic psychologist. These experts indicated many ethical and code violations in her work, as well as her misapplication of scientific methods. Somebody said earlier, it's the process, not the results, that we're concerned about and that the other experts are concerned about. We have medical doctors, psychiatrists, counselors, GALs, and ministers who issued statements in which they disagree with the methodology and the findings. We ask that you disregard that psychologist's prejudicial remarks, keep an open mind, and investigate our complaints on their own merit. I am going to switch relatively quickly. Can somebody give me the time?
About 5 minutes.
Oh, okay. It is troubling that the psychologist is asking for immunity from complaints and litigation. If the board supports immunity for its licensees, that would give unethical practitioners, we're concerned about the unethical ones, obviously not the ethical ones, it will give them carte blanche. It sets a dangerous precedent and places the public at continued risk. In cases such as ours, the greatest risk is that more children and parents will be wrongfully broken apart, and those have really long-term devastating consequences. We understand that some complaints could be frivolous, but it's implausible and disingenuous that all of these concerns from so many people are across the board unwarranted, especially when so many professionals and experts disagree with her. I'm going to briefly read Shelby Michaels. Let me see. You've all gotten her letter, and I'm sure you can read it in your own time. She is a licensed professional counselor, board-approved supervisor. And I'm just going to read a few paragraphs to respect the time. While I cannot speak to every individual who has filed a board complaint or lawsuit against Dr. Sherry, and I cannot break the confidentiality of the clients whose cases I have reviewed, I implore the boards to listen to the individuals speaking today and to not dismiss their complaints as merely those of, quote, bitter or dissatisfied examinees. From the cases I have reviewed, these are not individuals who have no merit to their complaints or who are filing to harass Dr. Sherry. Rather, these cases have legitimate reasons for concern that need to be fully investigated by the board. I'm down kind of at the bottom of that first page if y'all are following. I know that a few months ago, Dr. Sherry spoke to the board and requested that protections be put in place to protect forensic psychologists from frivolous complaints and lawsuits. She spoke of death threats and harassing negative online reviews that have negatively affected her business. I am also well aware that there have actually been murders of custody evaluators and therapists who work on these high conflict court cases. I wholeheartedly agree that more needs to be done to ensure the safety of mental health professionals, but specifically those mental health professionals who take on these cases. I also agree that mental health professionals should have some recourse to combat false negative reviews, and there should be some protections against unfounded, frivolous complaints. However, there needs to be more stringent guidelines and oversight of these court cases, and complaints filed most definitely need to be explored and not simply dismissed, especially when there are multiple complaints, and or complaints have been reviewed by another licensed professional. I know some of the boards have stipulations that if services are court ordered, then any complaint must go before the judge who ordered the service. However, it is my experiences that judges know the law. They are not usually aware of, nor have training or education in clinical professionals' ethical obligations, and even sometimes the differences in our education and limits of our licenses. Judges rely on the professional to act within their ethical guidelines and professional mandates. Not to mention the fact that almost every professional involved on a forensic case requires a court order before he or she will begin working on a case. To enact such a loophole will only allow unethical professionals to continue to exploit vulnerable individuals who are already going through an extremely stressful process. I'm going to let y'all read the rest. Did I make it?
Yeah. Thank you.
What was it? Stephanie Gibson. And we welcome, just to close up, we welcome meeting with the board and or staff at their discretion, and look forward to doing that. Thank you for your time.
I think perhaps take a 10-minute break at this point in time.